and welcome to the DM Emporium podcast about D&D. I know, another one. You're shocked. But this one's a good one, I promise. Well, it's good for us anyway. We'll see later if it was good for you. Terrible intro.
Nope.
Terrible intro. That's okay. But just to let you know who you're hanging out with. It's I'm Ty. I DM an entire campaign 1 to 20 over 6 years. Been playing for like a decade now, it feels like. A long ass time. But we decided, hey, we like talking about this stuff, so let's talk about it into a microphone. With me is
Alex, and I've never had the pleasure of DMing a campaign 1 to 20, but it is my deep-seated hope that one day I will do so. But I have been playing for, 15 years, I think?
Well, longer than that.
Longer than, like 20. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, that's right. Almost 20 years, and I've played a variety of systems and campaigns leveled 1 through not quite 20.
Level 1 through the end of the campaign. The campaign ended. I made it all the way to the end.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you know what? Sometimes your campaign doesn't need to end at 20. You don't need to go fight God. Actually,
true. Like the amount of campaigns that have ended before they ended, it's crazy. But anyway, let's see. What are we going to talk about today? Let's dive into our first subject. I don't know what's with me today. I'm just all goofified. That's fine. We call this the Character Adoption Agency.
There are heroes whose tales have yet to be told. Maybe they can find a home in your game or played by you. The Character Adoption Agency for PC and NPC seekers.
All right, so the Character Adoption Agency, these are characters that we've made or built at some point that have a really cool backstory or some really cool mechanics, or there's something about them that, we really want to play, but we realized that we're never going to get to play them.
I have not enough time.
Exactly. I have 190 characters in D&D Beyond, and if that's one of those, I couldn't play a year-long campaign with all of them and still be alive, so they might as well be part of somebody else's story.
Jesus. That's a depressing and good point.
Hey, at least we're finding an outlet for them somehow, because 190 weeks of characters, that sounds a lot more reasonable, doesn't
Absolutely. And then maybe we can help someone else who's not as creatively inclined or has some issues with character generation. I know a couple people like that.
Yeah, either that or somebody who's just made so many characters themselves that I need something to kind of refresh it, or you're just feeling like, hey, there's a one-shot I got to play and I don't feel like building a character for it. These are good for that too.
Absolutely.
But, let's see, I think today I'll go ahead and get us started.
Yeah, by all means.
Hell yes. Okay, so we're going to be talking about one of my favorite characters. This one is for the Critical Role campaign setting. Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. Yes. And I really liked building for this setting because, listened to a lot of Critical Role, not going to lie to you about that. But this is a character from that Wildmount area that is kind of built exactly to play in that campaign, but you can also take the details of what a character wants and adapt them to any campaign. As always, you can file the serial numbers off and, make it your own. You can do that with, actually, kind of encourage that almost. But anyway, this character's name is Brant Heitsteiger, which is, Brant means fiery torch, and then Heitsteiger means liberty hunter. So he's just a guy who's looking for liberty. He is, of course, a fire ganassi with a name like Brant. What else could he be? And if you know anything about the Wildmount campaign setting, a lot of this might sound, you'll be familiar with these places at least. So he was born in Wrexham Trim during a huge fire that took over the entire city. And since Ganassi are born near gigantic events of elemental chaos in this campaign setting, he was born a fire Ganassi. And now being born in the Dwendalian Empire meant that his parents knew that any Ganassi was going to be kind of taken by the government and become something that maybe he didn't want to do. So they decided to flee the city under the confusion of the fire and everything like that and make their way to the Menagerie coast. Eventually deciding that one of the islands was going to be safer than anywhere on the coast, they decided to land in Broken Bank. His father there, being a good fighter, found some work as a Zalezo. Now, if you don't know, Zalezo are the kind of like town guard, police sort of thing. So you can adapt that as you need to. And of course, being a fighter, he was taught to fight from a young age. Eventually, he would even join his father as a Zalezo, but seeing the working side of the Zalezo kind of ruined things for him because he saw all sorts of levels of corruption and crime and stuff and realized that the Zalezo were kind of more of the fist of the portcaller Mazen Fatfish Farid, which he could do much better job at. And so after he saved a particularly rich ship from a mutiny in dock, he got paid handsomely. The guy didn't learn a thing and he decided to retire out early because this life of Zaleza was not for him. So he took the opportunity to say goodbye to his parents and left Broken Bank behind him because he decided that it was time for him to gather power and influence to change the way that things are run, even if he has to run it himself. Now, being from this campaign setting and being a fighter, he actually went with the subclass of the Echo Knight. Now, if you don't know what an Echo Knight is a fighter with the ability to summon like a shadowy clone of themselves that they can fight alongside of, and really great for controlling the battlefield. So I kind of really leaned into that with his build. He wields a glaive, of course, has polearm fighter and polearm master and sentinel. Now, when you manifest your Echo, that means with a polearm with reach, you control 40 feet of the battlefield, 10 feet on either side of you and your Echo, and you can stop anybody from getting anywhere. So, weirdly enough, one of the campaign friends I had was a wizard, so no one ever got to touch the wizard. That was part of his motivations at the time too. But the cool thing about the Echo Knight is, you can unleash your incarnate, so it can take its own attacks whenever you take the attack action. It gets an additional action, and you can use that, 4 times. I think it's equal to your Constitution modifier. Yeah, Constitution modifier. And so it's a really good strength con kind of build it together. And then those are the 2 stats you really need to run something like this. Other than that, I wouldn't worry too much about. You're not going to be the face. You're not going to be the problem solver. You're going to be the battlefield aficionado. Yeah, exactly. A battlefield problem solver. As far as feats go, other than Sentinel and Polearm Master, I built it out to 7, so that way it was kind of like a nice even way. But if you can pick up Martial Adept, you can trip people with your Echo or do a menacing attack to make them attack your Echo specifically. So that way your Echo can absorb a few hits and things for the party, which is action economy, amazing use of it. So. But yeah, that's it. He's just, a guy who thought he wanted to be a cop, saw how bad it was, and decided that he was going to change the world, headed out into it. And he's slowly learning magic and finding out that if you want to dive deep into this character and give your DM something to play with, he found out that his soul was one of those reincarnated souls in the setting that got drugged through the fire before it hit his new body. But you can use that or not use that. One thing that's really cool about this campaign setting, if you're going to use it, is it has a cool table of things called the Heroic Chronicle. This is basically a bunch of tables you can roll on to enrich your backstory. You can roll, whatever. You can roll where you're from, your background. But the really cool things is you can roll your social status if you want to. You can roll exact settlements and things that you're from. One of my favorite things though is you can roll for your family and your family size, whether you're from a village, whether you're from a city, which ones are going to be more likely for each. You can have family member traits and relationships that you have with your family. You can roll allies and rivals. And the really cool one I liked is the fateful moments. Now on this table, you roll basically a scene with whatever rival or something that you have. Like if you roll a 1, your parents are murdered in front of you. You roll on the ally and rival's identity table to determine the type of creature that killed them, and you now have proficiency in the stealth and survival skills. So
that's pretty cool.
Right? It helps round out the character and give them a little bit more flavor and just makes it really, really fun. And it also introduces that thing of, you're not in control of your life, and sometimes maybe your character shouldn't be in control of theirs. I mean, it goes into like favorite food and stuff like that. Like I remember I rolled on mine. I got the Fusaka fish. It's a seafood cutlet smothered in Marquesian Fusaka spice and fried in oil. You can roll for a prophecy about your character, which only the DM will know and work with and stuff like that. But yeah, those are just kind of the super cool things about not only that character creation system, but also, how you can use them. So like for an example, Brant rolled, let me pull it up here. Yeah. He's got 2 parents who had 6 kids. He's got a family member who owes him a debt and they don't like it. They'll help you out if you need it, but only to clear the slate, you gain 1 ally who you can use 1 time. Rolled another ally. A person fell in love with you. If it's reciprocated, they always stand at your side. If you didn't, they took it well and still consider you their closest friend. Just a bunch of stuff like that. I also forgot, I gave him nicknames that his family would call him, like his mother would often call him nicknames like Brennan, Etzundan, or Forsker, which was combust, ignite, and explorer. And these are all in German because of the Dwendalian languages based off of German. And that's what we got there. So if you feel like playing Brant or just a really fun Echo Knight build with a little spice of the Fire Ganassi in there to give you a little bit more options as far as things you can do with ranged attacks, and you get Firebolt, which is Just
Sure.
sweet. I would recommend, as far as this, take your athletics, take your, perception. Other than that, kind of up to how you want to play the character. I did insight and investigation to kind of lean into his, I think I'm an observant cop type character and everything like that. But if you're playing in the campaign setting for Critical Role and you don't know what to do with it, this is a good jumping off point, and you can kind of take it from there. And of course, he sort of spoke like this, a smoky little bit of German in there, but he's trying to disguise it because he didn't grow up exactly like that. But, this is how he kind of sounded throughout the campaign. And that was fun to do as well. Anyway, that's our character to adopt for this week. And let's see, any thoughts, any questions on how, or inspirations about how you would play Brant?
Well, given everything that you've kind of put forth, I think his character speaks for itself a little bit. I don't know. So I've never played an Echo Knight. It's one of those ones that I've always looked at and gone, oh man, this is really neat. And then just never picked it up as an actual class. So I would go into it having no idea really what to do. But the idea of using the Echo with Sentinel and Polearm Master is, well, frankly, inspired. Like that had never even really occurred to me, but the just massive amount of area you could cover while doing that. I was actually, after you said that, my mind kind of drifted off and I stopped paying attention for a second as I was envisioning 2 Echo Knight fighters in a party.
Oh God.
Doing that. And basically, I mean, you've got your own full phalanx with
Hell yeah.
2 guys. 2 guys and their shadow clones.
Yeah, and the shadows, you can swap places with your Echo, and in game, outside of combat, it has a lot of really cool uses too. Like we were in a town and like we saw somebody on a roof, and I was like, "How tall is the roof?" Oh, it's 25 feet tall. So Echo, 30 feet away, swap places with it, and then I'm chasing it, and then throwing my Echo out in front of me, and then swapping Echoes with the Echo so I can get faster and faster.
You know what the Echo Knight kind of reminds me of? Have you ever seen Chronicles of Riddick?
Yes.
The Lord Marshal or whatever he is from the Necromongers, like their leader, the way like he casts his soul and then teleports over to where that is.
Pretty
It's
much
exactly what it reminds me of.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh, when I manifest the Echo, I always imagine it, he like draws his finger across his chest and it sparks, and then he snaps and the spark flies out and manifests as this shadow Echo of himself.
Well, that's very flavorful and thematic for a fire Ganassi.
Yeah, one cool thing about Echo Knights is you can see through your Echo's eyes. So you can also use it as a scouting mechanism because they're made of shadow, especially in dark places. Now, Fire Ganassi have dark vision, but they see it in like shades of grays only. So you can't make out colors or anything like that. But I actually used it as I was kind of a shit, come to think of it. But we had to chase 2 different people, one above ground, one below ground, and in a sewer system. So my Echo was in the sewers and I was up top, and we were running parallel.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so eventually the guy up top, the other party members got, but I just kept running along the top of it. So when they exited, the people who were running exited the sewer, I was already there where they were exiting because I didn't have to guess where they were going because my Echo was chasing them right alongside me.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, it's a really cool, really fun class. Like, it's one of the few fighters I would be not tempted to dip as much, because fighter is I can't help. I want to dip and get more options, but there's so many options with the Echo Knight. It's crazy. Now, if I was building him now, I'd probably give him the unarmed fighting style, so you could have your Echo hold somebody while you beat them to death. But actually, I don't know if the Echo can grapple, but find out for yourself. Play Brant. All right, but there's the character for the adoption agency this week. Next, we're gonna go kind of talk about the way we play.
The way we play.
So this week on The Way We Play, we're going to be talking about kind of playing in person versus playing digitally, and some of the advantages of each of them, and some tools that we personally use in our games. So why don't you kick us off with the IRL argument?
All right. Well, I don't think it's an argument necessarily.
Sorry,
There's very much merits to both.
Yeah, exactly. How about the IRL...
benefits, perhaps?
Yeah,
advantages?
Advantages. Oh, yeah, advantages.
There. Oh, see? Ties in. Ties in.
Ties into what? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so I play almost exclusively IRL in real life, in person, even during the the big shutdown and everything, because the place that we would play at, one of my coworkers lived there with my brother, and the other people we played with, either it was like me, my wife, my 2 brothers, and my brother's roommate, and I worked with one of my brothers, and my coworker lived with my other brother, and my wife lived with me. So it was just we were all always around each other anyway. So
you would have cross contaminated either way. So
yeah,
that works,
exactly.
you know?
That's the point I'm getting at, because I know that digital really kind of kicked off, as far as I understand it, during the pandemic, because it was the only way a lot of people could really get it.
I would say it did gain some steam, but I feel like it really kicked off around 2019.
Okay.
Like about a year before was because the Critical Role wave,
Well,
the other people. No, I say Critical Role wave, but it was Critical Role. What is the Penny Arcade guys acquisitions. Incorporated.
Okay, yeah.
And then it just started becoming part of the cultural zeitgeist. So people were all finding these wonderful plays. Oh, Dimension 20, holy crap, those guys are good. But people saw a bunch of the people playing and decided, oh, I'm too nervous to do this with my friends, so I'm just going to dive into having somebody else DM it because it's intimidating.
Yeah,
but
no.
I felt like it hit a cultural moment in 2019 that led to a lot of people to exploring it online before they explored it in person, because it's hard to come out to your friends as playing D&D if
Well,
your friends don't already play D&D, I think.
I think that might have been the case once upon a time, but now it's such a cultural phenomenon that it's no longer the quiet, unpopular kids playing D&D anymore, at least from what I understand.
Oh no, they're still playing D&D, but everybody else is now
everybody
too.
else also is, yeah. So now might actually be a really good time to go ahead and inform our listeners that I am something of a cultural Luddite when it comes to D&D. I have never really sat down and watched any of the streaming games or anything.
It's okay. You watch the D&D movie. You can hang out.
Yeah. Well, because I never sat down and watched all of Critical Role or really any of it. I think I've seen part of one episode or something.
You know what? You can catch up. You watch the cartoon show on Amazon. Pretty good.
Vox Machina?
Yeah, Vox Machina.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's one of those things that I've always meant to do it and then just never gotten around to it. So I'm not as familiar with that setting, a Wild Mount and everything like that as a lot of other people are, and I don't get a lot of the references that sometimes people will make to Critical Role. If there's a reference and the rest of a group goes, "Oh, they're just like the thing," I'll be like, "Yeah, totally. Just like that thing, right?" But so I guess that kind of ties into part of why I'm such a fan of in-person playing, is just I've never had the opportunity really to do it online. Also, I don't have the technical capacity for it since I don't have I tend to run more than I play. It feels like, at least.
Oh, that's a major benefit of IRL. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, well, it can be.
Sorry, it's a lot cheaper. No, because you still have to buy all the resources. And shit
Yeah, you still have to buy the books.
But yeah, IRL, you get some dice, and you don't have to buy expensive dice. I mean,
it's true.
I do because I'm a mark, but
At least you know.
Exactly. But anyway, more benefits of IRL. Sorry.
Yeah, benefits of it. Again, just in my experience, personally, I like to use props, and not to a ridiculous degree. Or it's not like I'm having everyone dress up at the table or act out what they're doing or anything like that. But
I wouldn't be opposed, but I'm a dork.
Well, a really good example is we were doing just a little one shot that was kind of set in the John Wick universe, and I have a couple of John Wick coins, and I was handing those out and using them and stuff like that for markers.
Oh, and, yeah, the inspiration. That was fun, and I couldn't stop playing with them.
Yeah.
But it was a good fidget thing for me as well. Dude, those things are so cool. And they were real metal too, so they had that heft to them. It wasn't like a little plastic thing. That was fun.
Yeah, well, and just little things like that can kind of help people, It gives them a physical representation of what the game is and what it's about. Another example is I ran a game once that was basically, it used the Ghost of Saltmarsh rules, but it wasn't that. It was just another game where there were privateers trying to go off, fight the bad guy pirates, do their own thing. And we had the ship's book, and it had everyone had written their names, and it had their dates of enlistment and everything. And when someone died, they were crossed out of the book and everything like that. And I had all the NPCs that served on the ship. And, it wasn't a big thing. It took me maybe half an hour to fill out a bunch of names. And then it was still something that they could hold and they could look at and they could read through we would keep ship's logs of other, prizes taken, things like that.
Oh, man. And I think that'd be really cool as a player because, when you're trying to remember something and you're like, wait a minute, let me just look at the actual ship's log, and you're grabbing and you're scrolling through. That sounds...
Yeah. And I mean, on the kind of speaking to the how much it costs to play one versus the other, it was maybe a $15 leather-bound journal from like Barnes & Noble or something. So it wasn't like I went out there and, got the finest creation off of Etsy or anything like that, because I'm pessimistically realistic about games, and I know how long mine especially tend to last. Usually it's no fault of my players. It's because I lose interest very quickly. Personal fault.
Yeah, well, no, that's why you're kind of starting to adapt into doing short shots instead of
That's
campaigns.
absolutely why.
Although, thinking back, my campaign was a bunch of short shots tied together with an overarching bad guy, so...
Bunch of short shots in a trench coat.
Exactly. Got 3 kobolds in a trench coat. That's my campaign now. See, it's interesting because, like, one of the advantages of playing online is, when a pandemic hits, or, you can all play online and everything like that. But my main benefit was I could play with people like my brother who are in a different state.
Yeah, I can see how that would help. That would be nice.
Yeah, so I had my brother, and 2 friends that were in different states that we could play with, and it's a lot easier to walk into a room in your house than to go somewhere. And then it's easier to make work nights work out without having to drive back and forth and everything like that. You can drink and play without having to worry about how to drive. That's one big benefit. No.
Yeah. Well, personally, I don't tend to drink a lot when I'm playing because, there was a time that I did, and my characters would make very interesting choices that were not necessarily in character, but boy, were they funny in the moment. But also that I can definitely see that being a benefit for work nights. Cause I mean, if you're talking a 4-hour game session on a work night, sure, that's only 4 hours, but then travel time, you got to eat somewhere in there. And, if you got kids to put to bed or anything like that, 4 hours becomes 6.
Exactly. And
that's your night.
That's it. Yeah. Well, and we started around 6:30 and then ended around 10:30 for adults. That's pretty great. You still have. Exactly. You're not ruining your next day by playing D&D. You don't have to figure out the logistics of getting there and back. You just go, I'm going to be in here for a while,
Yeah.
One big advantage, I think, for DMing, especially in a digital space, is all of your notes and everything are right there. Yeah. They're digital. They're easy to read. Roll20 is not the perfect ideal system or tool. Website, I'd say. Tool, there's a good word for it. But I did love having all of my notes and journal organized there and living there in perpetuity. So I could go back to the beginning of the campaign notes and they're right there. As long as you organize your folders, label things correctly and organize your folders, and you're going to have a wonderful time. That's why even playing IRL, I kind of have an addiction of using a laptop. Because as somebody with terrible handwriting, every time I take physical notes, I tend to take a lot of them, but it'll take me out of the game a little bit by taking too many notes almost, so you become more of a chronicler than a player.
Yeah, really.
So when I'm playing with a laptop or digitally, I can write like 1 or 2 sentences about what's going on really quickly and then dive back in.
Yeah, well, another thing that I can see as an advantage, and again, this is coming from a guy who's never run a game digitally, is the maps. Now I'm a big maps guy, not just battle maps, but world maps, city maps, campaign mapping. I love that shit. And more often than not, I will have a physical copy of a map somewhere, somehow, that I can present to players. But being able to do it on something like, Roll20 or any of those cool map making things, that would be so neat to just, I can spend 5 hours making 6 maps on there. Or I can spend 5 hours making 1 map with colored pencils and markers and Sharpies and stuff, on a what is that, 8x12, 9x12 sheet?
Oh, that actually is a good point. I'm not good at maps and map making and stuff like that. So finding digital map makers and going through and finding the right thing, like you spend a lot of time looking for the right map for what you need exactly, but finding these beautifully done artistic maps, especially I'm going to throw the shout out to Che and Peku. It's CZE and PEKU. Go check them out on Patreon. Holy freaking hell. They have the most beautiful maps. Like you can actually if you go to my YouTube channel, Hitchhiker of the Mind, there's so much of the campaign on there. I think there are bits missing here and there from either bad recordings or stuff like that, but there's most of it. And you can see so many of the maps in the lower right-hand corner of Che and Peku because, it really adds to the feel of the campaign where you're like, hey, you're on an illithid ship, and here's a beautiful map of an illithid ship that when you go inside, the top comes off and you can see inside and everything like
cool.
that. Is one of the major benefits. Also, everybody being able to control their own music volume. An unexpected benefit, because I've had players who can't concentrate if music is going, and that's perfectly fair. I get it. But I also have players who really like to get into it and have the battle music kind of like push them, or like have the moments and stuff like that. So everybody being able to turn it up or down as much as or as little as they want. Having pre-recorded sound effects.
Yeah.
It's not something you can't do in RRL, but it is something that's super easy when you're using digital, because you have your just little library of sounds right there and ready to go.
To see that something like even music, I mean, something I've never even thought to use before. The one sound effect concession I've ever really made in a campaign was, again, for that game that was taking place on ships. I had it was on YouTube, it was like a 10-hour loop of just ship sound.
Hell yeah.
It was just rolling waves, creaking ship, wind, just that sort of stuff. And we would just play that in the background. And
Hell yeah.
It didn't do much aside from kind of reinforce to everyone, hey, you're on a boat.
You're
as
on
the
a
song
boat.
says.
Sorry.
See?
It's funny. It only occurs to me that when we're playing, I'm the guy who's like, I'm going to pull music.
You are.
You got to tell me what about being obnoxious about that, by the way.
I don't think it's obnoxious. I mean, honestly, like I said, it's it's just something I've never really considered or thought of, but it definitely can add kind of depth to the experience. A little bit of immersion. That's the word.
That's the good word for it.
Yeah.
Oh, another big benefit of playing online is you have access to all of your players' character sheets in real time as they're updating them. So you can just kind of play. You can use that accordingly, whether to build tension and drama. Somebody's running low on HP and you're like, hit him again. Or somebody's got 1,000 million HP and you're like, time for you to be taken down a little.
Yeah, as a DM, I can tell you. I'm not going to say there's nothing worse, but one thing that's a real freaking bummer to me is when you have that stoic player, not the character, the player themselves is just kind of quiet and stoic, and, combat's going, they're getting hit, they're hitting back, all that kind of stuff. And then, all right, and the goblin swings with his short sword and hits you for 3 damage. I'm down. What? Oh.
Quoi?
Okay. Yeah, so being able to see all their character sheets and everybody's hit points and stuff, I can definitely see how that would be helpful. And, in recent memory, I haven't had a problem. I don't think our group has had a problem with, changing character sheets while no one's paying attention. But being able to see them, online could definitely be something that would help for that if your group has potentially that issue. And if it does, I suggest talking with your table and making changes if necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, one of the big things is the accidental stuff, like not marking your spell slots because you're in the moment. I've seen players, and completely non-maliciously, like, helping be like, oh, don't forget to mark your spell slot off, because you can see their sheet and you see that, and then you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, stuff like that. Your players having their own way to measure distances.
Yeah.
Without, getting over like, okay, how many squares?
Yeah, standing over, doing the lean,
knocking
knocking over your soda on the battle map, and it's like, well, they're wet erase markers, so thanks. Yeah, I definitely think there are a lot of advantages to doing it digitally, and again, this is as a guy who's never done it. It's just, I think that doing it, in real life, with everyone around the table, around the battle mat, it's kind of like the first steps. It's your intro to D&D, and there's nothing wrong with continuing to do it. I will still be playing.
Well, I was going to say one of the big benefits that IRL has is you can more accurately read the vibe of the room.
Yeah,
and that is huge when trying to tell a story with people, because there's been times, I had to play without face cams for a while, so I would have very little knowledge of what was going through my players' heads and just kind of, playing it on trust. But like when you can see somebody's jaw drop when you drop a piece of lore or something, if you get there's a whole different feeling to it. And also you have to, like, you can act directly into somebody's eyes and get like that, those big moments are more fun and easy to play around with when you can, see somebody for one. And if you can play online, please play with face cams.
Yeah, well, and you can also control, like, I don't know, especially as the DM, you have more control over the whole vibe because, if you're playing online, you don't know if someone's got, a crying baby in the other room that you can't hear, or if their partner's, watching something really loud and distracting them, or, you don't know what's going on their side of the screen. Yeah. Whereas if you're all sitting around the same table, you can kind of exercise a little bit of, judicious control over what's going on.
Yeah. Also the amount of, oh man, one of my players later told me, oh yeah, I was playing this game the whole time, like a video game, and I was just
Are you kidding?
I was like, ow, my feelings.
Yeah. Well,
please don't do that.
Please don't do that. Or if you would like to do that, can you find a different DM?
Yeah,
that would be my conversation.
Devastated.
Yeah, I mean, I have that issue when around the table, this is
the phone issue.
The phone issue. My God in heaven. Oh, Lord Almighty. And I mean, it's gotten better as time has gone on, and we've all become better players and DMs and whatnot. But there was definitely an era where it was just like, hey, I don't know if you're aware, but it's your turn. Can you stop scrolling through? One of my players was really bad about just being on Tumblr and looking at all of the content Tumblr had to offer, and not being weird about it. It's just it was what was showing up, and you could look over at his screen and just, my goodness, that is a very nicely built individual. It's your turn though. Could you attack the dragon?
See, I would have no idea what somebody was doing there online. I just know. And like that is one thing about D&D combat is sometimes when you have like a bunch of initiatives and things to run is the tune out I think is easier on digital because the internet's right there. You're already on it.
You're already on it. Yeah, exactly. As far as the initiative counts, we can talk about that another week and how I do that. Because, there's definitely... That can gum up a game real fast.
Yeah.
If you've got, 4 players and 4 monsters and everyone has different initiative. Oh, boy.
Oh, man. One thing about being a player, you can bring your own props, too. Like, playing a bard, you can bring your own freaking loot. They're like $28 on Amazon.
Not that he's done that or anything. He has.
Listen, anybody listen to this at this point, I know it's only episode 2, but should not be surprised by that.
No, and honestly, it was really cool because that was, this is something we should talk about if we're talking props. Bring it, enjoy it, show it off, whether you're the DM or the player who's got it, but don't turn it into the focus of the game. Yeah. Don't make it show and tell where everyone has to pay attention to you playing a lute for 2 hours. You did not do that.
Yeah, no, I tuned it for 2 hours. No, I'm just kidding.
Or, as the DM, show everyone the cute little potion bottles you brought or whatever. And then,
those are super fun.
Put them on the table and then continue the campaign.
I call it the treat it like your dice rule. When you get some really cool dice, you want to show them off, you're not going to spend a whole game talking about just your cool dice. I mean, try to keep it to that level,
Yeah, exactly. It's there to augment the experience, not to change the focus.
Exactly. All right. I think those are some of our takeaways from, playing in real life versus playing online. And, there's a lot of benefits to both of them. And as far as detriments go, as long as you're playing a good game, I can't really think of any detriment to playing online or in real life.
Yeah. As long as you got a good group, good DM, good players, as long as everyone's having fun.
As long as you're running the game you want to play, you're going to have a good time. There it is. By the way, don't forget, we're going to try to get that made into a t-shirt, so you can check it over at Hyperliminal. We'll include the link down below. They're one of the sponsors of the show, and just some amazing t-shirt designs things that I think you're not going to expect.
That's true.
But also going to freaking love.
Yes.
And, so that's kind of the way we play. And next is going to be a new thing that we're going to do. It's called One-Off Wonders. These are kind of some ideas and things that we've done for one-offs, or this particular one. Yeah, you know what? We'll get into it. One-Off Wonders. Here it comes.
One-Off Wonders. Building a session your players will never forget.
So this one-off is going to be something that's quick and easy, and something you can do for your players who are able to make it, and you kind of want to reward them even though not everybody made it, and you can't really move forward with your campaign.
Sure, yeah.
Because this one, I call it Fendrick's Funhouse.
All right.
This is based off of a character that I was going to play at one time but never got the chance to, called Fendrick the Fortunate. He's a divination halfling, all of the dice manipulation in the world, but we'll go into that at some time in a better build bureau. But the idea was this character had come across an item called the Confounded Rod, and had gotten himself into some trouble because this rod, don't let your players steal this, whatever you do. I had it attached to him by a mithril chain, but find a way that they cannot steal it because it can cause a lot of problems in your campaign.
All right.
But this one-off, and this is literally a one-session one-off, for the record. So Fendrick finds this confounded rod, this magical item, and it has a bunch of buttons and things to press on it, and you find out that you can cast spells and many powerful spells from it.
All right.
But you don't always get a choice in what those spells are.
Oh, dear.
And so he finds himself transported from wherever he was. You can decide where it is and tie it into your own campaign. But he finds himself in the Underdark, in an arena.
All right.
Surrounded by, can you guess?
Dark elves.
Dark elves. Yes, exactly. And, you've got the... the matron mother there and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing about this is you can adapt the monsters to whatever level your party's at.
Oh, nice.
And give them a little gladiatorial fight. I think mine, I had water weirds. I had a beholder. I had just a whole bunch of crazy things.
All right.
And if you want to adjust the CR and play a little bit yourself, because, in this situation I had, 5 players normally play and only 2 were able to make it.
Oh, dear.
And so, they threw in a, hobgoblin in their ally for them, and I just used a standard hobgoblin and monster block. I forget which one, but it's really funny because he'd come up later in the campaign, but it doesn't matter.
Nice.
What basically had happened is Fendrick had used the summon allies spell, and they were the allies that were summoned to help him.
Oh, nice.
And so you find yourself defending this decently powerful wizard and, whatever allies that have been summoned alongside the two of you against these, these drow who are just constantly sending in things to mess with you and then eventually you can have like the matron mother or a powerful priestess of some sort,
right.
Come down and mess with them. And then, once they get the whatever your cap is, mine was once they got the kill on I think it was a priestess of Lolth.
Sure.
And then Fendrick's like, it's recharged, and he presses the button, and then you're back in your campaign, and no time has passed for you. Okay. So that way, your campaign, there's 2 options here. The one that I went with was because these players showed up, and I give them a little bit of reward. They had some magic items and stuff that they got to take back with them, and also all of a sudden to the rest of the party, it just seems like to them, they reappeared beaten to hell with magical items, and so they had to like rest real fast and recover from getting beaten to crap. But they also got these cool magic items, and I think one of them took a beholder stock with him,
nice.
that they would usually later find out how to use in a paralyzing potion. So.
Okay.
The cool thing about this is you can adapt it so much to your campaign, and really this is more of just an idea than a fully built one-off. It's just kind of dip our toes into the one-off sort of pool. I have many others that we'll definitely get into, but this one I really like because it's a chance to reward the players who are able to make it, but also make them feel like they're not just spinning their wheels waiting for everybody to come back. Because too many sessions, I think all of us have played where not everybody can make it. So it's a
shopping episode.
It's a filler episode.
It's a beach episode.
Exactly. Well, we're just hanging out this time.
Yeah, I like the idea of giving out a little reward, not anything game breaking. You're not going to get your Vorpal swords out of a one-off, but a little, hey, thanks for showing up. And that way it's, the people who were, I'm sick and just didn't want to show up, they miss out on a little bit, but then it's also not penalizing the people who were like, hey, Grandma's in the hospital, couldn't make it this week.
Yeah.
So it's, it's fair and fun for everyone.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about it is it doesn't, you get to play your same characters without affecting the overall campaign.
Yeah. And,
because one thing about one-offs is, it's great to dive into these new characters, but then those characters are just gone.
They're gone,
so, I've so many characters. So many characters. But yeah, if you like this, Fendrick's Funhouse is really easy to run and adapt depending on your level. What I would do is just pop up with your encounter builder in D&D Beyond or just get your CR table ready and try to find the craziest monster you know is not really going to fit in your campaign, but you really want to run. So it can be fun for you as a DM. Like, say you've been, like, for me, I wanted to use water weirds, but I knew we were not near a coast and probably wouldn't be for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And so I put water in the arena so that the water weirds would, slurp out and try to pull people in. I got to play a hobgoblin NPC that they nicknamed Hobby because,
because they're
players get a player.
Yeah.
Oh, the funniest thing was the confounded rod. There was a beholder that came down, but then Tasha's hideous laughter failed its save. Could not make it save, no matter how much they beat it up. So they just had a beholder go, "I'm going to," and they just kicked the crap out of this laughing beholder until it was dead.
Jeez.
I roll terribly as a DM, but even for me that was anomalous.
Something I would suggest for this one as a DM, take into consideration how your players think and what their capabilities are, because if you've got that one cheeky player who's got, what are they called, the Umberholt gauntlets that give you the burrow speed, and you say, why, yes, it's a stone arena, and there's all sorts of monsters in it, and they go,
I leave.
I dig my way out. And then it's okay, so the one shot is your buddy is getting the crap beat out of him in the Coliseum, and you're digging. How are you going to get back to the party later? So just don't let them derail a one-off into a whole side adventure.
Yeah, that's actually a really good plan. Just preface your players with we're going to be playing. Roll with me on this one because we kind of need this to go one way.
Yeah.
Just this one time.
Yeah. Hate to railroad you. Also, we'd like it if you got off the train at your appointed stop.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's just kind of like and then the idea of you can have Fendrick show up later in your world. You can have anything. You can also plant seeds in this.
Yeah,
that's
a good
you can
idea.
have. I had the priestess of Louth. Her kids hunted the party.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and so you can have stuff like that. You can set up things you want later. You can add anything that you have an idea that's coming up later. Add it. You drop just a little bit of you've never interacted with a hobgoblin. Here's a hobgoblin ally. This is how they think. This is who they are. Are you intrigued yet? That sort of thing.
I can only imagine how funny that was for the rest of the party. It's just like, why the hell are these drow so hell-bent on getting us? And the two that showed up are just like, I don't know, man.
Oh, no.
Weird.
No, they went the opposite route. The Aarakocra took the ear off of the drow and then got it preserved, wore it as a necklace, and put his sending stone in it.
God almighty.
Yeah, that's some really cool players.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So he wore it as a trophy, but... Yeah, there's a little one-off for you, a little one-off wonder. And then I think next we're going to talk about...
a couple of spells? One spell?
One spell in particular, I think. So, coming up right now is going to be the Spell Specialist.
Spell Specialist. Because magic is complicated. And who wants to read all that? We do.
Now, not all spells are useful. Well, all spells are useful except for Blade Ward, but...
Not all spells are created equal.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what's the other one that... God, it's been so crappy, I haven't even thought about it. The one that gives you advantage on your next attack.
True Strike?
True Strike! Fucking True Strike.
Reference point 1. Ultramodern has True Strike that's better because it's a bonus action.
True Strike lasts for 2 turns. That's better in Baldur's Gate 2, and it's a bonus action, I believe. Yeah, so it's just one of...
Yeah.
The spell needs work. But you know what spell doesn't need work?
Create bonfire.
Create motherfucking bonfire. This spell is such a slept-on cantrip because a lot of people see it's does 5-foot square of 1d8 damage that goes all the way up to 4d8 at 17th level. Yeah, oh boy!
Ooh.
But you're forgetting you're controlling a 5-foot square for a freaking cantrip.
Yep.
Also. You're creating light. You're creating heat. You're creating, there are so many situations when you're actually an adventurer where just having an instant bonfire is such an awesome thing.
Yeah, even if it only lasts for a minute, it's still, enough to get the chill out of your fingers or something.
Hell yeah, I bet if you lit a magic bonfire on top of a bunch of wood, that bonfire probably would stay.
Yeah.
But, I just think this spell is slept on because, there are a lot of good cantrip options, but, controlling 5-foot square, you forget how many times a doorway is just 5 feet. You forget, restricting somebody from going somewhere at the cost of a cantrip, not even a spell slot, is so useful because you can use it in combination with other spells too, like Thorn Whip.
Yeah. Pull someone into the fire.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, you thought you were out of fire, and they just keep pulling me back in. It's oh my God. I'm babbling. Anyway, what do you like about Create Bonfire?
Oh, no, the same thing. I once had a character, he was a big multi-class mess, just soup. But a big part of what he was and did was, he was a druid, and he used Create Bonfire to great effect because I can think of one scenario in particular where he did Create Bonfire in a 10-foot wide tunnel, and part of his other multi-classing was Barbarian. So there was one clear 5-foot square that he was standing behind, and he got rushed by a bunch of, I think we were fighting undead or something. Not the most intelligent critters, but intelligent enough not to step on fire if they could help it. Yeah. And he just, held the line for a while. Because why not? It's an open 5-foot space, and now suddenly, it creates a funnel effect. It can be used very tactically, I guess, with the whole controlling the environment thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially like in places like, the Underdark, or in, where you're not going to be able to just find wood and light a fire and things like that. Yeah. I recently used it to great effect, getting a wizard out of his little 5-foot hole where he was just shooting out from his little, hidden place. Yeah. So I basically saw him lit the bonfire in there, and he had to evacuate rather precipitously.
Yeah, you have choices. You can stay in this fire, or you can get out of this fire. Those are your options.
And the first time I tried to cast it, he wasted a counterspell, not because he didn't want to have to get out of his little hidey hole.
Can't believe he blew a counterspell on a cantrip.
It's a beautiful thing.
May all of your enemies be so foolish.
Well, that's the thing, having your, causing a moment of desperation, because fire is a pretty desperate situation. And if your DM is... If your DM's playing it right and you're not against a hard ass who's like, I'll stand here all day if I have to, so playing them like, it's fire,
I think to me the funniest thing about that scenario, if it's the one I'm thinking of from last week,
it is
that spellcaster was actually resistant to fire.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so it's just like, DM, buddy, what's going on here? But
I think he just didn't want to, I think the counterspell in the caster's mind was worth it, not to give up their space. And because, they've been watching our party for a little bit, they kind of, they knew
what we were about.
Mostly melee,
And a lightning
get in
launcher.
there. Exactly. And a lightning launcher, yeah. Is that a custom item, by the way?
No, it's part of the Armorer Artificer subclass. Basically, you get the sneaky armor, or you get the thug armor. And the thug armor has the punching fists of thunder damage. And the sneaky armor has the lightning launcher, the plasma caster, since it's a predator build.
That's awesome. But one other benefit is, I know it's a joke, but literally, seriously, not every member of your party has dark vision.
Yeah.
Having a full torch that you can just keep going and leapfrog with, you can move it down the tunnel with you, and you can basically also, stop things from running at you while lighting it up, because dark vision is great, but a torch that you can put out as a free action is also pretty damn good. They might have seen something, instant off.
Yeah.
It's there's something to be said, especially if you're the one who doesn't have dark vision.
Yeah, really. This is my pet bonfire. It goes with me wherever I go.
Oh man, can you imagine you're playing a really big character, and you have this little platform that you carry around that you just light your bonfire on and walk around with it?
Instant torch.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. You can light torches, and you can light things on fire from it. Yeah, granted, you can do that with firebolt or whatever. And now, don't get me wrong. If control fire gave you fire to control, but if you have another player who has control fire and you create a bonfire, they can use control fire to do whatever they want with it.
Or if you're going for, kind of a cheeky elemental bender kind of build, and you just take magic initiate, you do create bonfire and control flame, and then your level 1 spell, I don't know, burning hands or something. Hey, look, there you go. Create bonfire and then control flame.
Well, and if you want, your elemental cantrips,
Yeah.
Oh man.
I love those, honestly. Like they're not super useful, but they're fun.
Oh, dude, I don't know. Move Earth is wildly useful, but we'll talk about that in another
Yes.
time. Hey, look, a grave. No, I'm just kidding. Oh yeah, burning up evidence and things like that you don't want. You want hidden or something. Hell, you could burn it in somebody's own fireplace.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then the fire's gone, and they never knew you were there. They just have burnt evidence in their own. You could
way to frame someone.
Oh yeah, you could turn the fire
Leave a
off.
piece of the evidence intact.
Think about it. You can turn the fire off halfway through and just step it out. Oh, and it's in their own. Yeah, see.
Hey, look, see? There's a use for a cantrip in an intrigue and diplomacy game.
Really? Oh, you want to... Oh, you come across a changeling who's hiding in a house, and you burn all of their costumes in their closet without having to burn or can worry about the rest of the building.
I don't know. The way our party goes, they'd probably just burn down the whole block.
Listen, we're talking about generalization. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've had a bunch of arsonists.
Yeah, it's true.
And we are two of them.
I don't know what you're talking about. I only have... Oh, wait. Yeah, no, I did burn that. That wasn't, didn't I?
Listen, it's not my fault the coffin shop is full of pine.
Oh, man. And probably a lot of ceiling things that are flammable. But, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, you come into instant fire messes up a lot more situations than you think it's going to. I think it's the big takeaway here. And, yeah, the ability to turn it on and off again, like you're the clapper, Just,
I love that the idea of that being the somatic component.
Yeah, just fire. No fire. Amazing. But we got a lot of fire themes in this episode. We got the fire ganassi, create bonfire. Let's see if we have some fiery inspiration with otherworldly inspiration.
It's time to take otherworld inspiration. It's not plagiarism if you tweak it.
Now, with otherworldly inspiration, we mean like any sort of media that you can take something out and add it to your game, add it to your character, add it to just your character's motivations or inspirations. Like, say, you were really into a movie, but then you felt like the writer betrayed a character or something. You can play it out. But I think this week we're going to go to one of your big otherworldly inspirations.
One of my huge fandom loves. It will come as no surprise. Well, it might come as a surprise. It's only episode 2.
We can still surprise them.
I have a deep and abiding love for the John Wick universe, down to the point where I spent actual real-life hard-earned money to get the John Wick character in the Payday games, just so that I could... Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Fortnite for a second, but Payday much better.
They don't have him in Fortnite yet.
No, they don't anymore.
He
was one of the OG characters from another realm.
Mother of Pearl. Yeah, I'm still hoping for them to cycle, now him, back through along with Predator. Because I just recently picked up Alien. I don't even play Fortnite. I just buy characters because I have a problem.
Oh, okay. Sounds like a problem. No?
Yeah, I've played, I think, 10 hours of that game maybe, which sounds like a lot, but anybody who games knows that's not a lot. But anyway... so this whole otherworldly inspiration thing, and it doesn't just have to be as a player, as a DM. If there's a particular aspect about a setting that you really enjoy or something that you'd really like to see just kind of played out, this is a good time to talk about that sort of thing.
Good transition. Yeah, what things have you taken from John Wick and added to your games?
Well, for starters, I think that John Wick did a very interesting and kind of useful for any DM thing with assassins guilds.
Yeah.
The idea that they are, a whole secret society and everything, but they're not just backstabbing assholes that wear black, the fact that there can be codes and rules and regulations and that they have their own, kind of way of talking, communicating, and dealing with each other. I mean, honestly, the use of coins and the way that people talk in John Wick, I think, is a fantastic out of D&D example of thieves' cant.
Oh, yeah. Well, having your own currency, too.
Yeah. What was it? Discussing in the first one, dinner reservations. A dinner reservation for 12, meaning we need you to come, clean up 12 bodies. That's thieves' cant right there.
That's straight up thieves' cant. I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah.
So, as a DM, being able to factor that in, I mean, you don't even have to have all the guns and the bulletproof tuxedos and things like that. It's just drawing little themes from it like that, like having, assassins and thieves guilds, basically any
Underground
organization. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could even extend it to clerics of churches or followers of churches and belief systems that aren't even necessarily bad or illegal, just outlawed.
Oh, yeah.
Say you're in a lawful evil empire, and this is, the only way that the chaotic good clergy can do their thing is with these coins that have, secret meanings and everything like that. It's...
Oh, man, you can even bless the coins in that situation, so they have like their own... Oh, dude.
Exactly. There's so much that you can do with it. So, at the very least, in most campaigns that I run, there is now an Assassin's Guild or organization like that. It doesn't have to be as well thought out or as world controlling as the High Table, but I like to have at least one Assassin's Guild or organization of crime that is well regimented and thought out, and not just assholes, but this is how they make their money.
Yeah.
And I like to oftentimes pit them against something that is more chaotic, I guess, so that there's another Assassin's Guild that, why, yes, in fact, they are, just a bunch of guys who will take money and kill people. And for your characters that are interested in pursuing the whole assassin rogue type thing, or, being in that criminal world that can give you the ability to still have them fight other criminals without it becoming some weird, all-encompassing political problem that the rest of the party is going to get dragged into.
And you can also give them a choice. Maybe they want to be a chaos gremlin. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Show them the benefits of each side. Maybe they... So that, yeah, and it gives your underground some texture. It's not just your underground is these guys. That's your whole underground.
Yeah. I think there's... I'm not going to blame Skyrim for this, but I was going to say because of Skyrim, there's this kind of, that's what the Thieves Guild is. They all hang out underground, literally, in the shitty tavern, or above ground in a shitty tavern, but they're all these guys. Everyone knows they hang out here in this one city, and they all look like this and dress like this. And, there's only one Assassin's Guild, and they're all, weirdly fanatic in one way or another, and they all dress like this, and they're all in this area. By pulling inspirations from other things, you can still have that, but then you can also, deepen it a little bit and contrast it. So that's why I like to use things from the John Wick universe.
Okay.
And also, just as kind of a quick aside about it, having a character that literally every NPC and most of your player characters who live in world know as the boogeyman, that's a tool.
Oh,
that's a great DM tool.
Especially when you want to put out a bounty on that person.
Yeah. Or, if the party's acting the fool a little bit and they do something stupid, just dumb, that you didn't get ahead of in time. And, they steal literally the crown jewels. Or something. But, they do something like stealing the crown jewels or kissing the king's daughter, so to speak.
Big problem in D&D.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Yeah. When the players do those silly things like that, instead of just, pitting them against 20 of the town guard and having them lay waste to the city's ability to defend itself, maybe you put out a bounty. I actually ran into a very similar situation in a kind of a D20 future-ish, like a space campaign, a sci-fi game that I was doing.
Yeah.
The players, we had one guy join for one session, and he was into D&D, but his schedule ended up not working out. But while he was there, he basically led them on this huge criminal enterprise to defraud the mafia of 2 million credits.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Did it work?
Great. It worked for a while.
Oh, no.
But then it was they had all this money, and they started to be very cavalier about how they spent it and where they got it. And so rather than just, having a couple of mafia enforcers come out and, slap their peepees, the mafia hired effectively John Wick, and this is before I'd seen the movie or anything, but this is how you can tie this sort of character into it. And he had been stalking them for 2 sessions, and the campaign unfortunately ended before he could get into it. But if you let them know, early on, it sounds like they contracted the boogeyman to hunt down these, some group of dicks, I guess, stole the crown jewels, and the players, they know, oh shit, that's us.
Oh God. And
they know who the boogeyman is. Now they're going to spend the next, however many sessions looking over their shoulders, because you don't have to bring him in that same session. That can be,
that'd be a waste.
Hey, you did this for no good reason, you Egypts. So punishment is coming. When your father gets home, that kind of thing.
When your father gets home,
Yeah.
he's going to kill you.
Yeah. And then, that way you can, especially if they do it at like mid to low levels, level 6, level 8 or something like that, and you want this to be like a serious fight later on, then, in a couple of levels, he shows up and suddenly your party of 12 is dealing with a CR 13, 14 assassin who's picked this battle and the time and the place for it. It's going to get spicy.
More opposite, you give them a few sessions to try to plan it and try to bait them out. You let your players kind of determine if they just run. Yeah, you can have them come back as user. But if they're like, okay, we can do this. They have this cool battle plan and they figure out they're gonna win against this guy. Give them a chance to plan it out or run. Yeah. It creates those tense, cool moments that your players are definitely not gonna forget.
Yeah, and I think just as a last thing about John Wick using that universe, that is a classic example of the retired adventurer in a town where the party are just being assholes.
Holy shit! Yeah, the retired adventurer who owns the fucking local store and
the retired level 20.
Yeah, because you can have him slap. Oh, that's another thing. You can have that character not necessarily even kill him, but like slap him around and be like, I only didn't kill you because I used to beat you, but
yeah.
This is your one and only. Everybody gets one.
Be better.
Be better. Yeah. And that's a good opportunity to, curb some of the more murder hobo-y tendencies.
Yeah.
And it's also can be a good lesson for new players of the consequence. Your actions have consequences, and this isn't a video game. You don't know who these people are. These people have had an entire life.
Yeah. They have whole lives, even if it's 3 sentences and 2 rolls on a table.
Exactly. Don't make me make him up right now. I'll do it.
I will name him the sorcerer Tim.
It's like, hey, I'll make him up. I'll make him cooler than you. You don't want that to happen. That's the worst thing that can happen in D&D. Going across somebody's cooler than you. No.
See, I guess that's my otherworldly inspiration for this week. A piece of non-D&D media that I use often and shamelessly in D&D or other role-playing games, because I also put that into a Zweihander game.
Oh, yeah. Oh, were we? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
No, holy shit. I didn't even realize it with the Zweihander thing, but yeah, it's just straight
part
up.
Part of the overarching story that the assassin storyline is telling is the creation of the equivalent of the High Table in that world, that in a few centuries will end up having a lot more political power and influence, but... Yeah.
I played a noseless dwarf in that. He was awesome.
You sure did.
Rolling on tables is a bitch.
Yeah, I think I'm going to actually forbid that for the serious storylines.
Oh, you don't want a noseless dwarf who made his own nose?
A noseless dwarf who uses Rube Goldberg machines to kill people. Or no,
I didn't do that. No, I was the barber. I was the demon barber of Fleet Street.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You were the Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
The other player was...
Yeah, my partner who made me the chair to drop people into his furnace because he had the forge underneath my shop.
Yeah.
Because we're a bunch of dorks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I support that statement, yes.
But yeah, I like that. Just even converting it to a fantasy setting can inspire you to break things out of, the norm, or even just make them unrecognizable to your players, because... Mm-hmm. They'll figure it out eventually, or they'll ask you, "Is this it?" And they get it. They'll think of something that you totally didn't have planned. So,
or even better, like the ideal way this plays out is, we'll use John Wick again as an example. You build your campaign world. You have these like the High Table, all these assassins, bodyguards, all these people with this special whole network. And one of your players comes to you and goes, "Hey, for the next campaign, I've been watch the John Wick movies. They're really cool. I'd like to play a character like that. Is there something in your world that fits that?" And you can just sit them down and go, "Oh, buddy, have I got something for you?"
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it. That's really fun.
Yeah, because especially if you play with a group of friends, like. You all hang out together outside of D&D. You all do the same stuff, talk about the same shit.
Movie night.
Yeah, there's going to end up being overlap.
Yeah.
And overlapping interests and stuff. And then, that's like I said, that's the ideal scenario where it just comes together naturally like that. But
it enhances your game and enables your players to play a fantasy that they want to play. I like it.
Exactly.
All right. Up next.
Maps.
Maps! Let's make a map!
Make a map. Cartography tips for a better world.
All right, final segment. This one's going to be an experiment of sorts, but we're going to try to get this done. We're going to try to help you make maps. And by we, I mean Alex, because I'm terrible at maps and map making. But he's going to kind of walk you through his process, and we're just going to make a map straight up for you right here.
Yep. All right. I actually have a lot of different processes that I use for map generation. It really depends on what the setting is, what the story that we're going to tell is, level of detail, what all those sorts of things that go into the rest of world building. Almost everything applies to when you're making a map. So I guess without further ado, I'm just going to kind of run through one of the random map creation things that I do, one of my methods. So first, got a piece of paper, which I think we'll probably have a link to an album or something.
Yeah.
A series of pictures. Just get your piece of paper, whatever size you want your map to be. We're just using 9x12, just real simple sketchbook stuff, because that's what I do most of my map making in. When I have the time and space, I do like to use like a 2-foot by 3-foot sheet. Actually, for the Zweihander game that I keep alluding to and talking about, I have a 3-foot by 4-foot 1/4-inch hex, where every hex is an area of roughly 595 square miles.
So cool as a player when the DM busts out a gigantic ass world
Yeah,
map. You're like,
it's
oh,
huge. And I know it sounds like a lot of internal area for those, but the face of each hex is supposed to be 12 miles, I think. 15, something like that. I have a whole mathematic equation for that, but we're not going into that in depth, at least not for this segment.
We gotta learn the basics first.
Yeah, learn the basics, and then we can get to the advanced stuff like how to use maps and mathematic theories as to why hexes are actually better than meridian lines. But anyway, so you got got your piece of paper. So what I'm going to use is a handful of D6s. Now, I've seen a lot of different methods for this and have used a lot. I've used rice. I used cacao beans once for an Aztec map. It was funny, and I had some on hand. Yeah, it was thematic. But basically what you want, and this is how we're going to generate your land masses. You just kind of toss whatever it is down on whatever you're drawing, which I'm going to do right now.
Wait, I've seen the coffee stain method for this. Is this the same thing?
Possibly. Which one's the coffee stain?
Just splash a bunch of coffee.
Yeah, basically, yeah. All you're going to be doing is marking on your budding map, your fledgling map here, your basic thing, what shapes you're going to be working with.
Okay, let's take a look.
All right. Now, this does make a mess, as you might see. So you're going to want to do it in a controlled environment if you can help it. My favorite way to do it is to kind of set up borders outside of the map that'll catch all the dice, rice, cacao beans, whatever you're using.
That was fun to watch.
Yeah. So
what's that, 30 dice?
I don't know.
A bunch of
30 and what? 12 made it on the map?
Yeah.
But that's okay. So now what we're going to do is you kind of look at what you got going on, and you'll be able to see when land masses are kind of forming. At least I am able to. Maybe it's just practice and habit, but I can see between 2 and 4 continents here. There's one that's an outlier, and you're going to want to, any that are just kind of weird or like on the border and stuff. If you're trying to make a cohesive, like, yes, this is the whole world map, you're going to want to remove those, because anything that's going off the edge doesn't make sense, or you're going to want to pick it up on the other side.
Okay, yeah, I see.
So actually what I'm going to do with that one is I'm going to shift it down so that it matches up with a couple of others and makes a larger landmass.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay, I kind of see what you're looking at here. I see 3 land masses, but...
Well, so what I'm
that's the
seeing...
joy of random, I guess.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing is one large island kind of in the, what I would say the northeast quadrant is. A big landmass in the western quadrant, though that could be 2, depending on how we wanted to divide it up, and I've got kind of an idea for that. And then a series of islands, 2, but we'll turn it into an island chain. So I will draw the outline now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and that's what you're going to want to do, is you're going to want to outline where your dice or where your space maker,
objects.
where your randomization objects create space. You just outline and do a rough one. I personally like to start with just like ovals or circles. We're not getting into the nitty gritty of coastline drawing or anything yet. This is just giving us an idea of what we're working with.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I like this creation method because, the world was kind of created by random. It feels like so. Having your world be inspired by a little bit of randomness also takes the the burden of thinking too much about a map and just creating the same map a bunch of times with. Oh, okay, cool.
All right, so as you can kind of see, right now I've got just the three sections outlined. If you want to take a picture.
Oh yeah, duh. That's my job. Bang.
All right, now we can
Clear the map. Take all the dots off.
Now we just clear off the randomization objects, which it's a lot easier with dice and a lot more interesting with rice and a lot messier with cacao beans, because actually that map did have a bunch of brown stains all over by the time I was done.
Yeah, just pre-coloring, that's all.
Yeah. All right, so now where'd my phone go? It's in my pocket. All right, is this going to pick up my voice well enough from right here?
That's what I'm basically going to do, is make sure it's aimed at you.
Okay.
So.
Alrighty, actually, you know what? I am going to lower this a little bit.
Below that.
No, I meant, well, oh yeah.
There's the as already low as you can go. Beauty.
All right, so now it's looking like we've got three land masses. I wouldn't call them continents just yet because, maybe we'll decide that we want an archipelago or something.
Or just a gigantic swamp. No.
Yeah, hey, it could be.
Actually,
All right.
with the indentation between where it comes in on that big landmass, I was thinking just like a big old, marshy, not full islets or island masses, but just big marsh with land masses to make it harder to traverse that area.
Well, before I get into, really what I want the biomes to look like, we got to populate it first. So we're just doing a completely random map. Now,
Okay.
I did a bunch of research and looking around, and someone on Reddit came up with a pretty good, believe it or not, it's an advanced version of the reincarnation table, or the table for the spell reincarnate.
Oh, okay.
So, since we're doing completely random map generation, this is just for funsies. There's not a particular story that we're telling yet. We're going to roll on that table and use that to populate our map.
All right. So is this just like I'm sorry, away from that. So is this just like a D100 or?
Yeah, so this table starts out, and I can, make sure that it gets posted, and we can credit the original person who put this table together.
I'll link it in the doobly-doo.
Yeah. But yeah, to start out, you're going to roll a D100 for races. What I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to grab a D20, because we're not going to make a whole super populated world. This isn't Toril. This is a random piece of paper for DM Emporium. So I'm going to take a D20 and just roll that real quick, and we're going to use that to generate how many races we're going to get. We got 6.
Oh, wow.
So that's not a whole lot, but that's okay.
So is this every race there, or is it just like the major players?
Oh, this table is pretty much every race. So,
No, I meant the 6 that we rolled. Are those the major players in our campaign, or is that going to be every race that's there?
that would be, I would say that's up to the DM.
Okay.
It's however you want to run it. Recently I did this for a game that I'm planning, a short shot that's going to be kind of World War I themed, using the ultra-modern campaign book. But yeah, for that I rolled 10 races, and those are going to be the player races, like the races available to players, because specifically I'm telling, we're telling the story of this big war, not just random things that go on in this world while the war is happening.
Okay.
So the races that are not involved in the war, not playable.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Unless you've got a really good argument for why your character's a mercenary for one or the other side.
Ooh, I bet I could come up with that.
Oh, I'm sure it's very easily
It's
doable.
inspiring, yeah. All right, so we got our 6 races.
Yep.
Now that's the sound of dice being exchanged. D20 for D100.
Oh, we're keeping the D20 out for this table, which you will see why in just a moment, I'm sure.
Sweet.
All right, so, oh my goodness. So we're just gonna roll now. I don't like to randomly allocate where my races go. I like to put a little bit of thought into that. So we're just gonna kind of on the side of the paper lightly make a note of what the races are. I mean, usually I would use a phone note for this, but we're trying to show everything on the piece of paper here. So first D100 roll. That is a 37, which according to this table is Ganassi. Now Ganassi has an asterisk next to it.
Hey, that's a follows our theme of the day. So they're
Hey, it
fire
sure
Ganassi.
does.
No, I'm just kidding.
This is where the D20 comes in. So now we roll on the D20 for the Ganassi table. Funny enough, we got a 12, which is a fire Ganassi.
Hey!
So somewhere on here, there's a Kingdom of Fire Ganassi, and I will just make a little note of that.
Of course it was fire Ganassi. That's
Of course, that's too good.
Oh, man. People would think we planned that, but we actually didn't.
Seriously,
Like,
that's incredible. All right, so for our next race, we're going to do the same process, and we're going to repeat this process, as many times as, you rolled races, so we're going to be doing it 6 times. And again, this is just a very random, if you have no idea what your campaign is going to look like, you can use this method. And then what's beautiful about this is you can get 80% of the way through it and realize, oh, wait, this makes better sense. Then you can start changing stuff. And before you know it, you've generated a living, breathing campaign world.
oh, man. Say you don't roll any more Ganassi. You have to figure out why there's only fire Ganassi. And then you have, an inspiration of maybe to find and reignite the other freaking Ganassi or something like that. Just something as simple as having only one type of Ganassi can be really inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe that's why there's only a light domain and there's not, water domain and wind domain and earth domain. I mean, there's kind of those, but there's Tempest.
There's Tempest.
All right, so we got an 18 this time, so that's going to give us a dwarf of some sort.
Ooh.
So we'll roll a d20.
Yeah, dwarves.
And we got Durgar. All right. That's funny. It's the second time that I've rolled Durgar for one of these random generations.
Hey, Durgar are wonderfully flavorful, so having them in a world I always think is kind of a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'm just going to roll all these together in case we...
Might as well.
Yeah. All right, 36 of a biscuit. I think that's Ganassi again. Oh, no, 35 to 49 is Goblinoid.
Ooh, Goblinoid. You got an 18 on the D20.
Wait, hold on. Oh, this table is on drugs. It's not Goblinoid. That's supposed to be a 45 to 49.
Oh, okay.
So we got, what?
36.
36. Furbolg. Okay.
Furbolg. All right. Oh, man. Furbolg. What a wonderful race.
Strange fellas. One of those that I've never really played or looked into until very recently when I saw kind of a meme about one of them basically being Predator. And I was like, wait, what? I didn't know they could just turn invisible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What?
Oh, man.
For as many years as I've been playing this game, I am still occasionally surprised by things.
Yay, layers.
Which I guess is cool, but also kind of makes me feel like a poor DM. It's just like, can I be this race? Yeah,
Hey.
sure, those sound neat. They can turn invisible. I'm sorry, what?
Don't forget, they keep changing it on us, too.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's part of the excitement.
God, what they did to hobgoblins will never cease to annoy me. He used to be this brutal, militaristic, badass villain turned player race. Now everything is about friendship.
That the racial traits though are pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, but one of them is exactly the same trait. It used to be like they were afraid to show shame and weakness in front of their allies. Now it's just like, oh, I'm surrounded by my friends, so I can do better.
I think what they did with that one, they were just trying to show people another way to play it, because anybody who wants to play the old Hobgoblin can definitely use these rules to play it that way.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
I think it was just one of those, they'd seen too many Hobgoblin samurai.
Hey, listen, it's a trope that works for a reason, all right? Especially in Eberron.
It's really good. Another 30. All right.
30, just flat 30. That's going to be an elf. Gross.
15. Yay, elves. I love elves.
I don't.
Astral elf. Come on.
15 is sea elf.
Sea elf. Oh, actually, that's going to be fun to play with.
See, and now my theory about having an archipelago in the southeastern quadrant there is starting to make some sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Two more.
Let's do this. 21, which gives us another type of dwarf, and 4, which is also Durgar. So we're going to go ahead and re-roll all of it.
Yep.
Why not?
Let's go.
8.
I like this. It kind of lets the world speak for itself a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you can put the story on top of whatever backgrounds and stuff it's already put out there. I like this.
And then you can adjust it as necessary. I mean, the last time I did this, I ended up with a random roll for tieflings. And I was just like, okay, so how does that fit into this world as an entire, kingdom or country or whatever? And it didn't.
Okay.
So I dropped him and replaced him with something else.
Was that the GIF?
No, actually, GIF was one of they rolled themselves.
Holy
the
cow,
fry
okay.
crane. Yeah.
Sorry, the GIF are just so World War One,
I know, they're perfect.
inspired. It's. I just thought that wasn't random. Right? Cool.
All right, so we got 8, which is Beast Folk Lineage.
Ooh.
Cool, all right. And then
17.
we got a 17, so that is Tabaxi.
Ooh,
All right,
weird.
could have been more interesting, but,
Hey, no, the Tabaxi, I think...
I'm not saying Tabaxi aren't interesting. It's just when someone plays a beast race, 9 times out of 10 it's a Tabaxi, and the other time it's an Aarakocra.
Actually, this is not
In my
bad, though,
opinion.
because you're opening up your player options.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so a main popular race for your campaign is not a bad thing.
Yeah, not at all. And another thing I like about this is it prevents you from falling into the trap of, the most common races in this world are the ones in the player's handbook.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a trap. They work because, they work for a reason.
Yeah.
They're archetypal, not necessarily tropisms, but also it can be interesting if one of the major player races is 4-armed praying mantis people or toxic frog dudes.
Yay,
you know?
Frankie.
All right, last one. We got a 60.
And 16.
Half orc. So we don't have a table to roll on for that because it's just plain old half orc.
Yay, half orc. One of my favorites. Oh, right. Cool.
All right. And so now what's fun? So as a DM, what I would probably do with this. What I'd probably do with this is have orcs be a race or a species that exists in the world, but have them, for whatever reason, be not accessible for players. Maybe they've kind of got the 5th edition null problem where they're not actually a race of humanoids. They're demon spawn that, has such a tie to the abyss or whatever.
That's the World of Warcraft orcs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, kind of like that.
I was thinking the other option is like they come from another plane of existence and they only cross over occasionally.
It's an orc ganassi.
Oh my goodness, dude! Fire orc ganassi, let's go.
Well, no, I mean, the fire being from the other plane, the orc being from the other plane, that sort of thing. All right, so we've got a couple of options now.
Well, let's do the sea elves. You talked about them being that archipelago.
Yeah. So the sea elves, if we're thinking that, obviously they're going to have underwater kingdoms and stuff, but there's stuff that they're going to want to do or need to do.
Trade hubs.
Trade hubs, yeah. Another thing that I would strongly recommend doing for most campaign worlds, you don't have to do it for every one, is even if you don't roll them, put in humans. Because humans are a very convenient way that you can explain the world to your players, even if your players aren't human, and give them what a human's perspective would be.
Also, 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to want to play a human.
Someone's going to want to play a human. So we'll just put a little note for them. And also, it's kind of hard to have half orcs if you don't have humans.
And you don't have to even have them be, a major, force in your world. They can be nomads. They can just be like just discovering their place in this world. Hell, your human player might actually have fun helping humans find their place in this place.
Yeah. All right. So we've got, I was anticipating more than just 6 races, but 7 with humans. But honestly, we can really make this work. So we've got the sea elves. We're going to say that they're down south, kind of in an archipelago little series of islands and island chains. So, what? Jeez, I'm just making a bunch of noise. All right, so now is kind of the point where I would start thinking about what the story is going to be, what kind of game I'm going to want to tell with all this, and what some of the big themes are going to be. Specifically with 3 land masses that are separated with as much ocean as they are, and the fact that we've decided that one of them is going to be an archipelago, we're going to use boats. Boats are going to be a big part of this game.
Can we have some hoes with our boats? Some boats and hoes?
My goodness.
Oh, no.
So we're going to use boats. So we'll have some Ghosts of Saltmarsh themes, rules, things like that. I referenced the book, but really what I mean is those boat rules, kind of the expanded. It's not just a dexterity check for someone who's proficient with.
It's not a
Pilot
car
C.
on water.
Yeah. And actually it can be, and that's something we can talk about another time, is how to do boats in games. Because there's two schools of thought, and they're both right. But,
actually, yes.
But they cannot mix, and I made that mistake in that boat game I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And that was,
okay.
I fell out of love with that game after about 9 months of playing, which sucks because I liked it a lot. And I really wanted to keep going, but it just... Anywho.
So I get to play in the reboot. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, you're already going to play in the sci-fi game reboot.
Yeah.
There will be reboots of many of my past campaigns.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Don't be afraid to reboot your campaigns.
Absolutely not. Or if you have a character that you really liked, like, you put a lot of love, heart, and soul into their backstory, but you were playing Tomb of Annihilation, so they died at level 3. Don't be afraid to bring them back. That I make that reference specifically because my wife... had a cleric that she was super into. She was a light cleric of Sune, whatever her name is.
I go with Sune.
And she really loved this character. And then we got like a half party wipe from some Sturges or something at like level 3 or level 5. Oof. And she was just like, oh man, now I'll never be able to play this character. And I was like, that is absolutely not true. And now she's playing her again.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, all right, we know there's going to be boats, so I'm just going to put a note on the side. Boats.
Now, does that mean we're gonna have to figure out like different levels of boats for different? That's not map big. Sorry.
Well, that can be. That doesn't inform what the map's going to look like, but it will inform the campaign world and who lives where.
Gotcha.
So if you've got people in an archipelago, maybe they don't have really seaworthy vessels. They're all coasting ships. Things like triremes, junks, stuff like that. Things that aren't going to be making blue water sail.
See, my brain with sea elves is like, oh yeah, and then they've they've allied themselves with the local sea life. So on long distance trips, they like actually follow the migratory patterns of like whales and stuff for their trade routes.
That would absolutely make sense, and that works.
Hell yeah.
So. All right, we know that we've got our sea elves. You also have to start thinking kind of about what the political situation of your world is going to be. Just because that'll also help with political lines on your map later, which doesn't have to be something you do in the first sitting.
Yeah.
Honestly, this process usually takes me a couple of days. But, so we'll say...
So we got our blobs. We got our archipelago.
Yeah.
We're going to put in the southwest. Southeast. I'm looking at it upside down.
That's something you're going to want to orient your map, or at least in your mind have it oriented. I almost universally do my maps the same way, so it's never a problem for me, but then when I'm trying to explain it to people who are holding it upside down, it suddenly seems very weird.
I could see that.
So for our sea elves, let's just say that there's 3 families. They're occasionally in conflict, and they... each control a trading hub, so that'll give us 3 major islands, and then each one of those can be surrounded by a couple of smaller ones that are filled with NPC races, little places to loot, interesting things like that.
I hate to say it, but you see Avatar 2?
I did not.
Oh, lucky. But, sorry, no, I didn't care for the movie because of many reasons, but they have the sea version of the blue people. I forgot their names already. The Na'vi, yeah. But like that would be their sea elves, but like the way that they were different from the regular Na'vi, but they live in like that same idea, like these archipelagos and the things like that. And there's so it's kind of interesting that it's not interesting. I just brought up Avatar 2 because it was inflicted upon me, and I apologize. Continue.
No, it's fine. And again, the whole otherworldly inspiration, draw from media that you know, or that you don't have to do this in a vacuum. I know that there's a lot of tendency, especially when you're just creating a campaign world, to try to white room it. Don't. Use the things that you like and that you're interested in.
That was a big mistake I made with my campaign, as I tried to white room everything. And then like the problem with white rooming everything is you're just denying the fact that you're inspired by other things. And so one of your players will be like, oh yeah, just like, and you're devastated.
All right, so I've got 3 little circles there. We're going to populate the rest of this before we just show another picture so that I can, kind of give an idea of how the map will evolve step by step and stage by stage.
Killer.
I think that Tabaxi and Furbolg are going to be in the same area. They're going to be somewhere that is jungle or forested. It's going to have, a lot of that kind of natural terrain for them to screw around in.
You think of that small landmass, volcanic,
I am
sort
absolutely
of
thinking
jungle
that.
garden. Okay, wow,
Yep.
this is fun.
So then, also, so if you look at the way the world map is and kind of going with the whole Pangea, I don't know if it's still a theory or if people just accept that everything used to
Listen.
be together.
When it comes to scientific things, no one knows anymore. Just go. We like Pangea. So
Yeah. Well, the thing I'm getting at is that, you can kind of see how land masses could fit together as a puzzle.
migrating
Yeah.
land masses. Oh
So
yeah.
that's something that I use a lot. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to draw kind of a, heart inverted triangle, very rounded, very kind of, everything at this stage is still abstract.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then as we continue to do stuff and see, and the picture will kind of show this, I draw most of these inside of the place where the dice lay, and then we can populate that with extra islands and stuff, because small islands are a great place for the player who wants to be a half-orc, but they do not want anything to do with that half-orc civilization. They come to you with this idea about how these guys are all, Polynesian themed, and they have like the face tattoos, and they use, cool whalebone and greenstone weapons and all this stuff, and you're just like, instead of forcing them to be in this other culture, then you go, oh, they live in this island off the coast.
Yeah, who have massive trade relations with the sea elves and the stuff that they want to do.
Yeah.
All
Alright, so we've got our sea elves, we've got our Furbolg and Tabaxi. Fire Ganassi, Durgar, and half-orcs are all going to be from the same... Well, they're going to be from the other land mass. I think that Durgar and half-orcs are going to be our dwarves and elves of other settings, or our dwarves and orcs, or orcs and elves. They're going to be in conflict,
Our
not
yin and yang.
necessarily at war.
Yeah.
But there is tension between them.
Okay.
So, following kind of the shape we've got here, yeah, we can make that work. So, follow the inside there. And then to illustrate biome differences and how things kind of fit together, we'll kind of drop it down there.
Little indentation.
Yep. I'm a big fan of having like weird like land bridges that connect things, because it creates a lot of just campaign world that becomes an important place, whether it's for trade or war or what. That's a spot that people are going to care about. The Bosporus in I think it's the Bosporus Strait or whatever, kind of where Constantinople is, that leads into the from the Mediterranean Sea into
I don't know
I
enough
don't
to
remember.
correct you.
It's basically up by the Chersonese and everything. That's a really important spot for trade, and for transit, to the point where I was about to get into Greek history about the Long War and everything. We don't have to worry about that.
It's funny because my brain was going the complete opposite. I was like, oh yeah, you can throw in some kick-ass fjords. Fjords that would make Slarty Bartfast. Just impressed. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. Oh yeah. No, but oh,
All
interesting.
right,
Kind of like a butterfly or lungs.
Lungs, yeah. I get that a lot. People will look at my campaign maps and say, oh, that looks like a heart or kidneys or lungs. So I don't know if that's just something to do with my brain or if that's just what land masses look like. So if you want to get a picture of that.
6 of one, half a dozen of the others.
Now, it doesn't necessarily follow where the dice lay with the exact shape of the of our continental land masses here.
Well, that was the point. Is the dice are meant to inspire, and then you take that inspiration and run with it, right?
Exactly. So now that we kind of have an idea what we're going to do with those, our Fire Ganassi are going to live, I think, in the kind of upper section of the northern landmass. They're not necessarily isolated, just that's where they tend to congregate, because there's also a lot of volcanic activity up there.
Oh, volcano! I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking, oh, they're the only ones who can survive in the cold because of their heat and everything like that. But I like it being a volcanic area even better.
Yeah, and so what we'll do is we'll have underneath them are the Durgar, and the Durgar and the Fire Ganassi trade a lot, because the Fire Ganassi can do things using their heat and their resistance to heat that the Durgar can't, but the Durgar appreciate that and want to use it in their industry. So there's a lot of back and forth between them. So then we know that's going to be a thing. Following kind of the themes of geopolitical... Well, actually, before we get into the geopolitics.
That's funny. 'Cause... Oh, We have some erasing.
Yep, we're erasing the political line that I was about to draw. Instead, what we're going to do is just write F gen up at the top to let us know that that's kind of where we want them.
Okay. It's funny because I was you're looking at the narrowing bit. Is that the conflict area?
That's going to be the conflict zone. Yes.
Is it? It's Panama.
Yeah, basically.
Panama. That's enough out of me.
Half orc, and then we've got, we'll do Furbolg up top. Tabaxi on the bottom of this continent, though the way that both of those races tend to be presented, there's not a lot of conflict between them. There's a lot of, there will be trade and good relations and everything, because neither of them are particularly warlike or militaristic or rude.
Yeah.
They're both kind of fun-loving and cheeky and...
Yeah. I would actually think of like almost like playful competitions between them, like their own little Olympics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can dig that. All right, so now that we've got kind of what's going on with those, this is the point where I would usually start drawing out coastlines a little more in depth. So to do that, you basically just... Oh, you took a picture of this, right? Well, we can do the...
It's okay. They can see the little wavy line. It's all good.
Okay, yeah, well... All right, so... Oh, sorry. So there's a picture with half of the coastline. All that you do with coastlines is use a slightly heavier hand and you shake a little.
Yeah, and this being our first make a map, I want to make it clear that this is the kind of technique that we're going to go through, and then in the future we're going to actually make maps with you that you can take home and use. Actually, you can take home and use this one if you
absolutely
want.
I'm 100%. Certainly not going to. These are not races that I would commonly play with or build a campaign world around, and plus I've got too much on my list to use this one. It's all yours. You listening.
Hey, that's why it's the DM Emporium. We leave things for you to take. And all we ask is the trade of a subscription. It's interesting because, like, I'm actually surprised by how much inspiration is come out of just these races and where you put them. Because, having the more aggressive, having to share a place is kind of interesting.
Well, it generates conflict, right? And if your D&D world or your campaign world, for whatever system you're running, if your story world doesn't have conflict, what's the point?
Well, what is there to do? What is there for your people to solve? Like, if you're there to make the world a better place and the world's not at war and has no conflicts, it's a lot harder to make it a better place.
Yeah.
But I like how you put the Furbolg and the Tabaxi together, because it allows them to have those more gentle societies without having it seem extraneous,
Yeah.
They're not sitting next to the, Durgar going, the Durgar are just ignoring them for some reason.
Yeah, or, trying to enforce labor relations with them.
Yeah, oh God. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if we're allowed to say what that relationship is on
streams
anymore.
We've said enough already. But, and then I like the idea of the seals being part of this campaign, because it being so much water, them being kind of this connective tissue between everything, and being able to use that as kind of their power rather than, your traditional ideas of, militaristic power and things like that. Because, having somebody who rules the seas when there's that much water,
it becomes really important, yeah. It's just
super important.
And yeah, they don't have to be necessarily, like you said, a big militaristic powder. They could legitimately just be some sort of consortium of mercers, just traders.
Yeah.
And because they control the trade in the seas, that suddenly becomes, a serious thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so now if you want to take a picture of what kind of the shaky outline looks like, the coastlines, and you'll see that it didn't follow exactly the outlines of even the secondary stage. Like I said, this all goes in phases.
Yeah, I like how this is basically leapfrogging inspiration.
Yeah.
You take what inspires you and jump to the next thing that inspires you, to the next thing, to the next thing.
Yeah.
I like that because for me, as somebody who's less organizationally minded, it really helps with I don't have to start with the big idea. I can start with all these little things and jump.
Yeah. So. All right. Next, so this is probably going to surprise you a little bit, actually. The next thing that I like to do is rivers. because for a very long time I would forget to draw rivers on my maps. But
I
rivers
can
are
see
the
that.
most important land feature you can have aside from dry ground and wet ground.
Just ask Mark Twain.
Well, because rivers traditionally, are
Bloodlines of your economy and your invasion tactics and your everything.
well, natural resources grow along rivers. Yeah, they're used for trade. They're used for militaristic things. They're barriers. They're roads. They are everything.
Yeah.
So what I will do now, the reason that I do the coastlines first, and this is going to seem kind of silly, but from a cartographic perspective, I guess, and I'm not a cartographer. I'm not like a professional map maker. Or anything.
I love that cartographic perspective.
But what I'll try to do is I will find indents into the coastline, and those become river mouths leading to the sea. So,
yeah,
a
you
good
make
example,
your-
you see this one up here?
Yeah, nice delta there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's small, but then you just, oh, right.
Well,
what
on
am
a
I doing?
world
I'm
scale,
getting a
that's-
colored pencil already. I'm skipping ahead. I'm jumping ahead.
On a world scale, anything that's small but noticeable is
Gargantuan.
significant.
So then we'll have that river kind of just travel down a little bit, sway lazily, kind of like Michael Bublé. All right, there's a river up here that we'll have. And you don't have to do this with every single, thing that looks like it could be a delta or a harbor mouth, but this is also a good way to start defining where your political boundaries are going to be, because, even look at world maps pre European people and Americans.
No, even nowadays, you can see there's tons of. Look at steep maps.
Yeah, you can see where the borders follow the curve of the mountains or the rivers and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's stupid places where it's just, oh, this is where 4 random spots just come together.
We made some squares.
So, and on this kind of
Panama indentation.
yeah, this Panama indentation is a good way to phrase it. What we're actually going to do is we're going to have that travel north,
Ooh, interesting.
and it's going to be very long. This is going to be our equivalent of the Amazon River or the Nile or something. But
Mississippi.
what I would do here now is find one of these curves, expand it, and that's going to end up being a lake or an inland sea.
Oh, hey, cool. All right.
Yeah, and if you ever look at any of my other maps, you'll notice that a lot. There's a lot
Yeah.
of almond-shaped lakes.
They're pretty great. Great Lakes.
Nice. All right, so for our half orcs, I kind of know where everything's going to be, so I'm going to start erasing the names of the races or species or whatever, so that we've just got more free space in the middle to work with. And once I'm done drawing rivers on these, we'll show the other picture there. All right, so got that one.
It's interesting because just even another randomness factor, the shake of your hand while you're intentionally shaking it to make these coastlines, because there's very few clean coastlines
Right.
that are, but I like the fact that you're taking another factor of the world just being the world.
Yeah, like you said, it kind of generates itself.
Yeah, it tells you who it is.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure you can use these to create mountains, but I think I'm reading ahead. So
I'm actually, mountains are a whole different thing that I do, but yes, we will get into that. That'll probably be the next thing after rivers.
perfect. And it's funny to think of the how especially with making map, how certain people got lucky with what they've got, and how certain people got unlucky with what they had, and how it changed and developed their races, and maybe that's what led to their attitudes. Like the half orc, one of the big main rivers heading up into other people's territory, and they have advantage of that, and that envy, that it would do our our people so much good. And that's the thing is, it doesn't have to be an evil reason to want this thing, because this thing could literally benefit everybody. I mean, you don't know anybody else, because the time periods you usually set in aren't particularly, you're not going to be playing a very well traveled character, and those that are usually have motivations beyond their people because they left them.
Yeah. All right, so now we've kind of got the basis of the rivers, so we're going to go ahead and get a picture of that. All right. Now, I will often expand on these rivers a lot more. Like there will be more fingers and branches and stuff that come off, but I don't do that until I replace the pencil with colored pencil.
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
then I just kind of let it flow and kind of feel out where it's going to go.
Nice. Yeah, and we're not going to take it down to the super minutia like that for you, but giving you the overalls of how to make this world. Because if you're like me, you just stare at a blank piece of paper and go, I don't know, is there a town there? I don't know, maybe a river. I don't know, maybe I don't know. I give up. I don't want to do this right now.
So we've already discussed the idea that the fire ganassi lives somewhere that has volcanic activity.
Yeah.
So we're going to start by putting a big mountain right there.
Oh, yeah.
And then I usually draw just like a little stupid looking hole. And then snow/lava on the top of it to denote volcanoes.
Cool.
We're going to do the same thing on the Furbolg and Tabaxi Island because we said that those would be kind of volcanic islands, you know, Hawaiian-ish.
The perfect coffee makers.
Yes.
I've not had enough coffee today.
Same. Now, with that theme, what that tells us is in the northern section of the map, there are 2 spots where volcanic activity has erupted through the crust and formed actual volcanoes. That means that along this line, there is volcanic, probably fault activity, and there's going to be more mountains. So that's going to tell us where we can start drawing some of our mountains in.
Will also probably tell us why there's not a lot of people heading north from there's probably like a ridgy reef or something underneath the entire ocean there that could cause major hazards to vessels.
Absolutely. And that also means that we can probably dot some islands between those, which
Oh, yeah.
could be why the Sea Elves don't control all trade. But honestly, between the Fire Ganassi and the Furbolg.
Yeah, they're just to go island hopping instead of mass. Yeah. Okay.
So then we can...
And one thing I like about drawing world maps is, remember, this is the world to your players. If you want to later expand your world, it's just a place they haven't been yet. They haven't explored yet. Hell, they even did it in Vox Machina to a certain extent where they're like, there's another continent, And, so if you're looking at your map and it feels to you like you've gotten all you can get out of it, or you have a thing that you want to do that doesn't fit in your map, you can always expand that outwards and use the same method to kind of give yourself a place to go.
Yeah, in that, I mean, you're going to get a spoiler, and so is everybody that listens to this about my Zweihander world. Yeah, there's a whole other continent. I have 2 sheets that are that size.
I knew it! I freaking knew it!
Well, with the deep love and appreciation I have for certain Native American cultures, the Mexica specifically, the Aztecs to some.
Oh, yeah.
Of course they're going to feature in a campaign world that I make. And that's another thing that almost always is in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Because why not? They're super cool, and there's a lot to draw from, and it's a very interesting culture.
Just imagining Tabaxi like that.
That's what everyone always goes for first. But
Really?
From what I've heard in a lot of different people, that a lot of people tend to use Tabaxi and or Aarakocra to kind of display their Mesoamerican societies and to kind of display their takes on Mesoamerican society, specifically because of how they tie into the
Jaguar
the warrior societies of the Eagle Knights and the Jaguar Knights. But I think that's honestly not necessarily doing them a disservice, but it's focusing so hard on just one aspect of the culture.
That's fair.
Because, if the whole point of these warrior societies is to become this, and I'm going off on a tangent, I'll make it quick.
All good.
If it's to embody these apex predators and, these wonderful hunters and stuff, why would
you already be that?
Exactly. So,
So it's Riff Neblin, got it.
Well, that's not out beyond the pale. Or if you wanted to make it weird, sure, have them be Tabaxi or Aarakocra or whatever. But the scary monster that they want to become, the terrible hunter to inspire fear in their enemies, is a bullet or an umber hulk. So they dress themselves up like, land sharks or big bugs. Because, they're already a hunting cat. So why would they want to dress up as also a hunting cat? Why would you embody that? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to old Alex here.
All right, okay, I can see where we're going with that. I like it.
All right, so I've drawn some mountains up in the northern area. Let's see, we're gonna hit some You know what? That actually, we're going to throw another mountain on the big sea elf island.
Makes sense.
And that's all we're going to do for mountains on this one, because it's kind of a smaller campaign world. If you want to take a picture, you can. And my mountain symbols are very, very primitive and basic, because I am also very basic.
Well, and that's also actually something important to remember is, you do not have to make it super duper pretty.
This doesn't have to be Google Earth. This is a hand-drawn map, and in the context of a campaign, it's likely also a hand-drawn map.
Well, and actually, you can even use that to your advantage. Where they're like, "Hey, this isn't on the map." You're like, "Yeah, nobody's explored that yet. Nobody's found what you're finding." Like if they're headed in the north between those two, mountain ranges, and they find an island that no one's discovered yet, and take a rest there, that's perfectly within the logic of the world.
Yeah, and there's actually another map that I've done, one of the big 2 foot by 3 foot ones, is the only biomes that you can see on that map are along the coastline, because that's what most people have explored as far as the players are aware.
Hell yeah.
All right, so we've got our mountains. Realistically, you could populate this with some more mountains and stuff, but we're not going to, because this is a fantasy world. So now you would kind of have an idea of, where your people are going to live, the different species living in different areas.
But the conflicts and the things causing those conflicts.
Yeah. This is the point where I would probably start to do all my rivers, and I think it's important to say do your rivers before you ink your outline, because otherwise it's going to look really weird when it just, in my mind, it looks weird when a river just appears off of a coastline and doesn't actually connect to the ocean. But that's just a me thing.
Okay.
But yeah, do your rivers. Then start, let those spread out, give them a couple of extra fingers and stuff. Then ink your outline, and I color code my biomes, but you don't have to do that. But then you can start doing political lines and stuff, and there you go. That's a map.
Hey, we freaking made a map for you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go all the way through it, but honestly, that's a 3-4 hour prospect.
Well, not only that, you got to the point of like the map is made. Mm-hmm. Now you're getting into the DMing and world building territory. Exactly. So. Like I said, my problem was always getting that map made, because the other stuff, I can run with, but the actual map itself, that's brutal.
Well, and now you have one of the many ways that I try to do that. Another one that I can go over another time is just figure out your races first.
Oh, yeah.
And then I draw circles where I want them to live.
All right. You decide the conflicts you want. You put circles and draw around that. I like it.
Yeah.
But we'll go deeper in depth with that next time we do make a map. For now, though, it looks like this episode is running about right on time. So let's go ahead and wrap it up there. We want to thank our wonderful sponsors. We've got the Hyperliminal, and we'll keep a link to them down below. Canine Medicinals, if you need some, multivitamins, stuff for your dog, just generally keep your dog happy, healthy, and they're usually in like treat form too. So my dog's,
that's helpful.
Yeah, no, my dogs love it. It's like, hey, they think they're getting a treat. Oh, multivitamin, gotcha. It's like when you get like the
Flintstones.
Flintstones gummies for your dogs. Yes, exactly. So check them out at caninmedicinals.com. You know what? I'm going to talk to them about getting a promo code. So
Nice.
Keep your ears out for that next episode. There should be a promo code. Hopefully we can do just DME. And, we'll see what percentage off we can get you out of your order. Maybe 5, maybe 10. I don't know. I'll try to work my magic between now and then. But until then, run the game you want to play. Yeah. Run the game you want to play. Stay happy. Stay hydrated. Get out of your lane. Go wherever you want. And have a wonderful day.
You've been listening to the DM Emporium podcast. To support us, click the links in the description. Buy a t-shirt or join our Patreon. Join us next week for more builds, game running theory, and useful tips for any campaign.